Hello everyone. In today's locomotive profile I'm going to be doing is, before I start the video like I did with the X2000, there are some words that I might mispronounce and cannot pronounce the words correctly. So, let's get started on the video. The SJRC. The RC class was the most used electric locomotive in Sweden, built by the ASEA. The RC is a universal locomotive used both in freight and passenger trains. The largest operator is Green Cargo, although the SJ Tagab, Hector Grail, and Ben Verkit operated as well. Previous operators included the Viola Transport. They were built between 1967 to 1988. Over 360 were built and produced. The RC model emerged from the ASE in 1960s and first appeared in 1967 to replace the older D locomotive, notably the ASE. Faculty manager and head engineer was involved in designing and developing the RC locomotive at the ASEA. The initial RC models are notable for using trispadator instead of older relay-based system. As of 2020, RC locomotives are still used all over Sweden in both passenger and freight lines. Although on passenger trains, they are slowly being replaced by the new EMU, such as the RA1 or ER1. Altogether, there are been 8 versions of the RC locomotive in Sweden, including the freight locomotive RM, designed to pull iron ore trains. The RC1, RC2, RC4, and RC5 have a maximum allowed speed of 135 kilometers per hour. RC3 and the RC6 have maximum allowed speed of 160 kilometers per hour. R7 was rebuilt of a RC6, meant to haul replacement trains needed when the X2000 trains were cancelled or delayed. RC7 had a maximum speed of 180 kilometers per hour. However, the maximum speed permitted without emergency electric magnetic track brakes is 160 kilometers per hour. And keeping extra carriages was considered too expensive for that reason. All RC7 were subsequently converted back to RC6, RC1, and RC7, all weigh between 75 to 80 tons. The RM weighs 90 tons, and the RM's top speed was only 100 kilometers per hour, and more powerful and are powerful locomotives. Engines based on the RC design were sold to other countries. The OBB bought 10 RC2 with extra brakes for the alpine conditions. The Aube class 1043, one of the locos was badly damaged in the accident, but remaining 9 have been bought by the Swedish company. The TAGAB and returned to Sweden. A slightly altered RC4 has been sold to the Norway, known as the EL16, the RAI 4700 class. In the Iran Railways RC4, of 8 engines were exported to Iran in the early 80s for use of electrified stretches near the then Soviet border. These were based on the RC4, but with RM but the RM type bogies and sandproof air filters and round windows on the side. In 1977, an RC4 was tested in the United States for use with Amtrak passenger trains. Designated as X995, the RC4 engine proved successful and would become the basis for the AEM-7. 42 Class RC2 locomotives have been refurbished. They included various upgrades and known as the Class RD2. The the SJRC1, 20 of them were built the year 1967 to 1968, and for their power, 3,600 kilowatts, and their top speed was 135 kilometers per hour. Last RC1 retired from green cargo in 2015, and for the SJRC2, only 100 of them were built between 1969 to 1975, and the power is the same as the RC1, and the speed and the green cargo RC2 refurbished to RD2, last one in the year 2014. And for the RC3, only 33 were built between 1970 to 1971. The same power and a speed over 160 kilometers per hour. 23 rebuilt from RC2, 13 later sold to Green Cargo and Hector Line. The last RC3 sold by the SJ in 2013. And for the OBB class 1043, only 9 of them were built, and between 1971 to 1973, and for their power, 4,000 kilowatts, and a speed of 135 kilometers per hour. The SJRC4 built 130 of them, and between 1975 to 1982, and their power 3,600 kilowatts, and the same speed, 135 kilometers per hour. 160 kilometers per hour for the RC4P 1166, repainted back into its former Amtrak colors. And the RCRM built 6 of them, and it was only built in the year 1977. For their power, 360 kilowatts, and for the speed, 100 kilometers per hour. The cargo-only locomotives originally for use on the ore route, now used all over Sweden, and the NSB EL-16. They only built 17 of them, and for the year between 1977 to 1984, and power 4,440 kilowatts, 135 kilometers per hour. And the AEM-7, the Amtrak Specta, had 65 of them between 1978 to 1988 for their power 5,200 kilowatts, 200 kilometers per hour. They retired with original operators since 2018. And the RAL 40-7700 class, 8 were built. Only in 1982, power 360 kilowatts, and for the speed 100 kilometers per hour. And the SJRC5 built 60 between 1982 to 1986. Power 3,600 kilowatts, and a speed 135 kilometers per hour. All now converted into RC6. The RC6 only had 100 of them built between 1982 to 1986. Power 3,600 kilowatts, 160 kilometers per hour. All 60 of them were converted from RC5. The RC7 had only 2 of them built in the year 2001. For their power, 3,600 kilowatts, 180 kilometers per hour. Rebuilt from RC6, all now converted back to RC6. And last but not least, the RLP-44 built 33 in the year between 1989 to 1987. 4,320 kilowatts of power, and for the speed 201 kilometers per hour. Built from REM7 and the SJRC7 for the NJ Transient 2308, sent to Specta as a lawsuit settlement, retired on the NJT by 2012 and Specta by 2018. And that's it for this video. And before I end it, here's a clarification. Do not, and I repeat, do not suggest any type of trains that the words from different countries that I cannot pronounce the words. So, like I said, do not. Anyways, like and subscribe, and see you later, guys.